And good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is another wonderful Wednesday for women. We are always excited and always delighted to welcome you to Live with Sujay. This is an online presentation coming to you from the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce, the first chamber of commerce that focuses solely on Black women-owned businesses all over the world. And it's also in partnership with the Charisma Speakers, which is my company. It is the place that you can find kicking keynotes, consultants, and coaching. We provide keynotes all over the globe because you need a speaker with charisma. But today we are delighted because we have our first, say the first partner who joined on with us when the chamber was really just in its really infancy stage. We had just come out of the test tube and we were ready to be born. And then COVID hit. But in the midst of COVID, something wonderful was birthed. And our first partner is the Brenda Campbell, CEO of USSMC and the Enhancement Foundation. Welcome, Brenda.
Hi.
We are so
Hello, Doc. How are you doing?
we are so well, but we want to let me start with thank you. So many times people wait to the end of a show or end of an event and they say we want to thank our sponsors or we want to thank I want to thank our partners up front because you were introduced to me. We knew each other by reputation, but you said, with nothing in hand, I will join you and I will help you. And so let me say thank you and show my deep appreciation. And why is it important to say thank you and show your appreciation? Kind of just tell us, let's start there.
Well, it's important because when people know that you are thankful, they will tend to do even more for you.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you so much. And one of my first jobs at Harvard University came as a result of writing a thank you note to the dean who spent time with me for a job I did not get. But when there was one that he felt I was ready for, because of that thank you note, he opened the door and said, I've got something better for you. So you never know. Write your thank you notes. Boomers like thank you notes, not emails. We don't want to text. We want a thank you note.
Yes.
But
Yes.
let's talk about, what does USSMC stand for?
Unlimited Services Systems Management and Consultants, Inc. stands for Unlimited Services Systems Management Consultants, Inc. But it was birthed on spiritual principles, if I might add.
Sure.
God is unlimited. He is a servant. He has a system. He is the ultimate manager and consultant.
Wow.
And that's why we named it Unlimited Services Systems Management and Consultants. A lot of people think USSMC stands for the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yeah, yeah. You have to make sure that differentiation. And something amazing is happening. We have now almost 70 members in the Global Black Women's Chamber. And this is our
Wonderful.
pre-launch time.
Wonderful.
Very instrumental in helping us there as well. But one of the things that's happening is 1 out of every 2 who joins says that faith is an important part of their entrepreneurship. So we call
Yes.
them faithpreneurs.
Yes.
So that they need their grounding. And so it's very important. But let me ask you this. So USSMC specializes in small business consulting and management. And you also help people with government, getting big government grants. So being small doesn't limit your ability to be big. Is that correct?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's not helping small businesses start their businesses is only a portion of what the company does. The company has a professional development area that encompasses management consulting, organizational development, strategic planning, events management,
Yes.
community policy and procedures, business process reengineering. That's a lot of what we do, and some technical writing. Then we have the EEO area, the affirmative action, diversity and multi-generational programs. And then, of course, to support those various organizational development opportunities, we have our IT areas that support those things to make sure that we are running smoothly. The small business portion was a portion through our training arm, which I have taken a very important part in because I love training. We have over 50 trainers that are across the country. So we're really excited about that. But at the
Yes.
same time, this part of the training to small businesses is something I wanted to do as a means of giving back to our women small businesses,
Yes.
especially.
Well, that's why we're so glad that you chose us, or we were chosen to be part of it. But how do you know when, like you said, you have companies all over the nation? How do you know when to expand? Because we have people coming in at all levels. Some are for the first time entrepreneurs, some have been at it for a while and want to scale. How do you know when it's time to make a move?
It's time to make a move when you know that you are close to your business goals, and
Mm,
your business goals and your business plans and your strategic planning. And as the customer's needs are requested, you
yes,
have to make sure that you are available to the customer. Now,
yes.
if the customer needs something, you have to make sure that you are equipped to expand.
Yes, yes. So talk about building an infrastructure, because in a sense we're building as we go along, but we wanted to make sure before we went public and before we officially launched that we had certain things in place. So we did a membership drive and we're hearing from our members, which are our clients. But talk about the importance of building an infrastructure for your business along with your business plan.
Okay, let's talk about that. The business, the key thing to an infrastructure is understanding these things. I'm gonna list them down for you.
Okay.
The first thing is planning, and I call it post score.
Hmm.
Okay, and,
Okay.
and planning is critical. You
Hmm.
must be able to plan appropriately for your customers,
Yes.
and you must plan yourselves as well.
Yes.
You must understand the plans of the customer.
Yes.
So you have to make sure that you are planning around the needs of the customer.
I love
If
it.
you plan around the needs of the customer instead of also planning around what you want, then
Yes.
you will
Yes.
be more successful. So
Yes.
it's important to plan.
Yes.
It's important also to organize.
Come
We
on now.
must organize the organism. When we
Uh-oh.
organize the organism are the important integral parts of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
The organization has to be organized. Your organizations, of course, have to be organized before you can organize someone else.
Exactly.
So
So
it's
yes.
critical that you are organized.
So for
Then
some that means putting a board in place. For some that means having consultants like you, and also having mentors, because there are people who have done this before you, and to not have to be
absolutely.
afraid. So it's the planning, it's organizing. What's another step?
And the next steps are staffing.
Hmm.
You must staff the individuals who can provide the needed and requested services of the customer.
Uh-oh.
You are not expected to know everything.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's nothing wrong with hiring people that are smarter than you.
Yes. Yes.
So that's critical. So your staffing plan is critical. And then
Yeah.
the key to that also is making sure that whoever you bring in to the organization understands the requirements of your customer. And
Yes.
they must have a work plan themselves on how effectively they are going to promote the services that are necessary for the customer.
So let's hold right there, because it's also important that they understand their role. So they a job description and an interview, or at least a dialogue about what you're expected to do, so that you know how to meet the expectations of the customer. Is that
Absolutely.
okay? That's
Absolutely.
critical. Yeah.
And
Okay.
the other parts are
Mhm.
coordinating. You have to be able to coordinate. When
Yes.
I first started the government back in 1991,
Hmm.
oftentimes the individuals that were in the government were unaware of who was across the hall from them,
Yeah.
not
Wow.
knowing that they were a part of a whole team,
Yes.
a holistic infrastructure.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And because they didn't know, that was kind of interesting for us as a company. We
Yes.
had to get to know who the historians were in the
Yes.
organizations
Yes. Yes.
so that we could learn as much as we possibly could with that customer.
So
Why?
I want to hold right there, because learning is very critical, because you just don't just go in just because you have relationships or just because you get a contract, but learning is a critical part of the job. I just got off the phone, off of a webinar with the head of Netflix, and he talked about what you were just talking about. He says, we're not trying to build a family, because a family means you're trying to make sure everybody's accommodated. He says, we're trying to build a team, the word that you use, because we want to have the best people in the best places on every base.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and
And
the
so,
other
mhm,
parts of that is, of course, when you not only are you coordinating with your customers and of course your team members,
right.
but you have to order the necessary supplies and
Uh-oh.
services that are required in order for the customer to receive the necessary services and products that they need.
You're right on a point right there. So let's hold right there, because to have staff, to put a budget together, you need some funds, FUNDS. And so
Absolutely.
we're forming a chamber of commerce, which means we want commerce. We want currency to come in. So talk
Yes.
about sources of income and revenue streams, and how you help small businesses get those. So for a chamber, it's through membership, sponsorships, partnerships, and grants. Is
Yes.
that how it is for most businesses?
Well, for most businesses, depending upon the type of business it is, if it's a 501c3
Yeah, we're
organization,
going, yes,
then we would look at grant opportunities for those organizations,
yes, yes,
helping them to understand, first of all, that they need to be able to address a problem.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
And
exactly.
so they have to understand that they have to create a solution so
Yes.
that the social needs of the economy are met, if you will.
Okay, so you have a for-profit, which is USSMC, and
Yes,
now you have a not-for-profit, which is the Enhancement Foundation. So
absolutely.
why do you have the need for both? Why do you need for-profit and a not-for-profit, to your point?
Well, the reason why I decided to start the nonprofit was to give back to the
Okay,
community.
okay.
It's important. It's also a tax shelter for our organization.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
so it's important that when you are in a profit making business,
Mm-hmm.
that you also reach back to the community
Yeah,
so that you can
exactly.
assist women.
Yes,
And we started the Enhancement Foundation because we wanted to leave a legacy
yes,
for the next generation of women who wanted to start businesses, who wanted
exactly.
to start. So being with your organization and as a partner with you, it just really excited me.
Well, it
Uh,
excited me to have you, because we're also about legacy, because a lot
yeah,
of our board are boomers, or the generations that preceded a lot of the millennials and Gen Zers who are coming in. But we also do have an intergenerational board. But we wanted to make sure that there's legacy, particularly of generational wealth, so that every
yes,
generation doesn't have to start again. And so let's talk
absolutely.
about wealth, because a lot of nonprofits think you are not supposed to make money, that you're not supposed to have anything, but make sure everybody else is taken care of. How do we change that mentality in terms of making sure that the best way to take care of our communities is to be in a position to take care of ourselves? So
Absolutely.
let's talk about that for a little bit, about mindset and shift.
Well, again, it goes back to your plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your plan has to emphasize the diversification of funding.
Talk
See,
about that. Yes, yes. You got an amen corner over here today. Yes. But let's talk about diversification of funding. Like,
yes.
what are the different types of funding that are available to be diversified? Kind of talk to us about that.
Well, in diversification of funding, you have to understand that the government organizations have several means, or
Mhm.
there are many government organizations.
Yes.
So, as you are preparing your organization, you want to be able to look at the strategic plans of federal agencies or
Yes.
state agencies
Yes.
and then tailor your business
Yes.
to their needs.
Uh-oh, you're right on a point right there. So let's talk about tailoring your business. First of all, what are the areas that you are finding that we are avoiding, that you don't see a lot of Black women in? Talk about those areas and perhaps why we've been absent from those.
Well, I believe it has to do with your need to understand who you are, first of all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But second of all, it's important for us to understand that we have the capacity, women have the capacity to work in any area that they desire.
Yes.
This was interesting for me because our company had the opportunity to work for NOAA, okay, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
Yes.
That's where the satellites are going across whenever there's a hurricane. We
Yes.
have been very integral in working in those particular areas for satellite and data communications under our engineering side. So it was really an opportunity. But for women, we have to understand that there's global warming, which is an underutilized area. The STEM program,
Right.
okay?
Right.
That's where you have a lot of engineers. You find there is not a lot of engineers that are women out there. There are a lot of underutilized areas. I mentioned global
cyber security.
Cyber security. Even though more women are beginning to get into the cyber areas, ethical hacking. That's something that a lot of women don't even know anything about.
Yeah. That's a big thing. So let me ask you this. So like there was a presidential decree that went out basically that companies now, the federal companies cannot do diversity training right now, anything dealing with race. So that just went out last week, was in the Times, whatever. So, but there's so many other areas that we can diversify our businesses.
Yes.
So NOAA's one, ethical hacking is another. What are some of the hot ones that people like? There's a university now that trains students not even to think about careers right now. They talk about careers of the future.
Yes.
So what are things that we need to be looking down the road in terms of how the trends are going? Now we're in COVID, but COVID's going to be over at some point. So what are the trends that we need to be looking at?
Well, I will tell you this, robotics is a critical one now, okay? A lot of women are not even in that area. And let me break it down even more for you. A lot of remote things are happening now. A lot of remote businesses are starting even more so now.
Yes.
You got even though they were in the past, they're being pushed even more. Ride sharing, virtual assistants, daycare owners that are online assisting.
Yes.
Real estate agents are even more so going into business online. You even have commercial businesses, all types of businesses that rely on the internet, if you will. Okay.
So when we hear the word pivot, it doesn't just mean turn. For some, it means change.
Yes, you can't do business the way you know. You got to have. That goes back to the diversification. You got to look at every possible income stream that you possibly can generate, either through your computer, through social media, through opportunities for growth for your organization. You got to look at every possible area. It's unfortunate that a lot of times our HBCUs, if you will, have not taken advantage of a lot of the funding that the federal government organizations have available to them.
Right. And they can do that as their independent school. They don't have to wait till a whole HBCU initiative comes, but they can target a particular area, as you said, right?
Absolutely. And not only that, you can, as a nonprofit organization, and not only that, not only a nonprofit, or you can do it as a contractor. You can team, listen to this, you can team with these organizations like these schools, these HBCUs, and you could generate a research lab. You can generate research and development, okay?
Exactly.
Not only that, you can look at how you can go to a large corporation as a small business, and guess what? You can be the prime.
Exactly.
And you have a large corporation behind you, and you're gaining all of this technical support that you need from that organization. So they are your mentors at the same time.
Right.
And you are being the individual to bring the business, and you get your fair share piece of the pie.
I love that, fair share and a piece of the pie. You know, we talked about pies and profits a couple of shows ago, and last time we talked about the power of partnerships. And
Yes.
so, you know, particularly now in the midst of what's happening, not only in the COVID pandemic, but the race pandemic that we're experiencing, there are
Yes.
a lot of corporations that are waiting for some small businesses to come and say, we need you. We want to have you be the prime and help us to start businesses. So one of those we're doing with EBW, as you know, She for PPE. We're partnering with Ingrid Vanderbilt, and she's helping train, right as we speak, women to sell PPE equipment as distributors. So there'll be small business owners. But there's so many businesses that we can look at that if you are, you know, really primed for the prime, you can take advantage of. So I love your strategies. You know, I have what I call the D-SMOG principles, which is very similar. Mine is you have to digitize, energize, strategize, monetize, organize, and glamorize and globalize. So we're very much in the same vein. But let's talk about glamour and talk about presentation. So when we're talking one-on-one and we're not on camera, we can be casual, but we're in front of, we don't know who's watching. So
Yes.
talk about presentation for the 21st century businesswoman owner.
I believe that it's important for the business owner to know where she's going in her presentation.
Okay.
It's critical. It's important that the business owner understands the cultures that she is dealing with as she is speaking. She needs to understand all of the various cultures that she can be impacting as she is speaking.
Very much so. And I want to just hold right there, because cultures doesn't always mean just another ethnic group or another.
Absolutely.
Culture
Absolutely.
means what's the climate that you're walking into. So when I went to Harvard, for example, they had a culture that was different than the White House.
Absolutely.
So you have to know what people are reading, what they're wearing.
Absolutely.
You know, it was a little piece of pearls at the White House. At Harvard, you had to look collegiate, and you had to go be invited to certain parties and know how to work the room at those parties. So understanding the culture, I want to stay on that word for a minute, means understanding the totality of the place that you're going into. And I used the reference as a book. Paula Giddings, who's my soror, wrote a book, When and Where I Enter. Meaning you need to know what room I am entering. So
absolutely.
If I'm dressed a certain way and I'm on that day, President Clinton invited me into the room with the cabinet members. But had I not been dressed properly or not known my grammar or all the whole presentation, I would have been left behind.
Absolutely.
So it's about understanding the whole mentality, what to walk like, look like, talk like, and how do you wear the outfit that you need for that particular culture. So let's talk a little bit more about cultures. Talk about cultures that you've gone into, from a government to a corporation to a nonprofit. Let's talk about some cultures that you've gone into and the differentiators.
Well, one of the things I can say that in doing business for the last, since 1991, I have found that every organization has its own separate culture.
Yes.
And we had the opportunity to go in and do business process reengineering opportunities. And when we went in, we had to understand, and we utilized our cultural analysis tool.
Yes.
And as we utilized the cultural analysis tools, we were able to understand the roles people played. We understood the power structures of the organizations, because the Defense Department is going to be different than the civilian federal agencies. Okay.
Exactly.
And even how you go into the Defense Department, how you look, you're going to tend to wear your blues, your browns, your corporate colors. Okay.
Exactly.
And also what I have found, and this is going to be interesting for you, when you go in as a woman-owned business, you have to be particularly careful, because you have women that are working for a lot of these federal agencies who may get a little intimidated with you if you're not careful.
Exactly. And you can't overpower or even suggest that you're over aggressive,
Absolutely.
so that you don't intimidate. And that's a really, really important point. And for our faithpreneurs, a lot are coming, into business from the church world. And
Yes.
we have a Black church culture, and each church has its culture, but there's a certain, you might wear your bling to the church gala and banquet, but it's not appropriate for the going into the corporate culture. So kind of, even if you don't understand, having a mentor. When I became a White House fellow, almost 30 years ago, there was a Caucasian woman who mentored me. She trained women all over the world who were becoming prime ministers and presidents of countries. And she said, "You're getting ready to sit next to the president of the United States." And she took me, we shopped together. Even the pearl in my earring, it couldn't be but so large. But
Yes.
every little thing, the pumps that I wore, the heels couldn't be too high. We weren't talking about red bottom shoes. So understanding what they're wearing, how you walk into the room, and not being afraid to get someone who's a stylist or a mentor that helps you with your clothing for the first go round.
Yes.
Fortunately, I had a mother who was just elegant and who was a stylist, but not everyone has that, but not being afraid to ask that. I want to just pause right here. If you're watching on YouTube, we want you to please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and also share it with your friends. And we want you to stay in touch with us. We have a chat room there, and we want you to put into that chat column any questions that you have for myself or for Brenda Campbell. We're sharing today with Brenda Campbell, CEO of USSMC and the Enhancement Foundation. And in about a few minutes, our producer Angela is going to come on, and we're going to take your questions because we want you to get the answers that you need. But Brenda, not only are you a partner in terms of helping me, but you're also going to make available a lot of this knowledge, and it's so rich. I hope if you've been watching, you see, we're just trying to capsulate it. There's so much, but she's going to be offering a 3-week, 2-hour each time session on training on October 8th, 15th, and 22nd. And if you are a member of the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce, there is a special discounted rate. This is information that's normally 12 weeks and it goes for thousands of dollars. She's going to offer it to Global Black Women's Chamber members for $150 for all 3 sessions. And so if you register, we'll put the information at the end of this, but if you register, then you will also get the Zoom link and you'll be part of that training. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on October 8th, 15th, and 22nd, 3 Thursdays in a row. And we want to invite you. This is the last week of our discounted pre-launch rate for Global Black Women. CC.org is our official website, and you can go right there. And Angela will make sure that you get that in the chat box. But we want you to join us. You will be a founding member of the first Black Women's Chamber that's global, that deals only with Black women-owned businesses. For-profit, nonprofit, you can bring your whole entity in. All of your businesses can come in, or you can come in as an individual. But we want you, like Uncle Sam used to want you, GBWCC wants you. You're looking at our logo here, and we'll be glad to have you join us. So let's talk about Enhancement Foundation. I love alliteration. So enhancement, you're trying to enhance a community and enhance a small business, but I want to use another E. What's the kind of energy you need to bring to starting a business? What kind of energy do you need?
You have to believe in yourself. So you have to be a go-getter, if you will. You have to be a go-getter. You have to be, let me think through this one.
Do you have boundaries, though, in terms of making sure you get the amount of exercise, rest, and making sure that you take some time to be able to think through what you're just planning?
Absolutely. And I was thinking about that when you were saying exercise. I was thinking about, you got to get some rest.
Yeah, you have to.
Definitely.
Yeah, and people will shoot you. All my team knows they will shoot you emails, including someone I'm talking to, at midnight and at 4 a.m. And I say to them, I don't care how inspired you get in the middle of the night, you will hear from me between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Tuesday through Friday. So I take Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays off because I've earned that. But if you let people kind of infiltrate your downtime, you're never off. You
Yeah,
never have holidays, and you have to
absolutely.
have time to rest. Rest is important for renewal. That's what I
Absolutely.
say. So I share with all my team and my friends and mentors, because I get all these little text messages like, text me right now, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it unless it's an emergency 911. You'll hear from me Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. But let's talk about, so when do you know when to exit? Another E. Now, some people are starting a business and then they want to quit their job and say, I'm going to take it for what's an exit strategy for new business owners and for those who've been working for someone for a long time? Talk about the exit strategy. What makes good sense?
A succession plan. So when
Yes,
you have a succession plan, everybody will they will have an idea of when that exit strategy will be.
yes,
And depending on how connected they are to their companies, they may plan to pass that company down to someone else.
yes.
And they may just want to step up and be the board member per se and just kind of oversee it and then
Mhm.
gradually make your exit out of the company.
Yes.
A lot of it has to do with where you are with your retirement funds, where you are
Mhm.
with the strategies and the monies that you have tied into the company also.
Yes, yes, yes.
So when you have money that's tied up into a company, of course, sometimes you have to stay there a little while longer until you get things accomplished that you want to get accomplished,
Right.
and then you can move out. And then there are also opportunities that may come your way. Someone may want to purchase your organization. I
Mhm.
get calls all the time about, I would love to purchase your organization, but I'm in the process of planning some strategies and have had strategies in the past where I want to pass this company down to
Mhm.
someone, okay?
Okay. That's
So
great.
so
Yeah.
I can be connected to it in a way and give mentorship to that individual. Although I plan to do a little traveling once this COVID comes, gets out of my
Exactly,
way.
exactly. But in the meantime, yeah, but you have to be wise in terms, that's part of your
Yes,
strategy. You have to be wise. So someone who's been working, say, for the government for 30 years is like, I am ready to start my business. I'm sick and tired of it. But now Susie Orman will say, have 6 months of savings. I like to say for Black women, have a year of
at
savings.
least, at least.
At least before you jump. And that means that if you have kids in college, that your college tuition bills are going to be paid and your lights will be on and all. So it's
Absolutely.
not just your, everyday needs, but it's making sure your nation, your tribe is taken care of, anything that's in your world. So what do you suggest? Do you think at least a year is important?
I would say as much time as possible is important. I
Mhm.
would say at least 2 years, at least. And the
Okay.
reason I say a year is fine, but if you could have more money, the more money, if we get in a habit, when you're a business owner, if you get in a habit of saving,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you put some money aside for you for a rainy day.
Yes, because it's raining right now. And if you have money, then you can do something. But that's really important because during COVID, we consolidated some things. I had a couple of houses, a couple of apartments, but I said during COVID, I'm going to consolidate, move
Yes,
to one home. My kids
yes,
who wanted to come home could come home so they could save. But then what I'm doing is during COVID, then now I'm saving the money that I was paying in those different places. So on the other side of COVID, I'll have a surplus.
absolutely.
So you have to think strategically at all times. And so don't let COVID take you down.
Absolutely.
Use it as a
Absolutely.
time to say, how can I really make this work for me? And
Absolutely.
so you can live on the other side of COVID.
And your company, if you're really operating your company the way you should operate your company, then you will have various resources within your organization. Some organizations may decide to go public.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We decided to remain a private organization. Okay. So we
Mhm.
can control what we decided to do with the company.
Let's talk about these C's. So we've talked about culture, we've talked about company, we talked about COVID. Let's talk about control because that's a real important. So a couple of magazines we know that were Black owned sold 51% of their company,
Hmm.
which meant they no longer controlled it, and they went whichever way they went. Some of them
Absolutely.
collapsed. So let's talk about that word control. And then Angela's going to come on in a few minutes and we're going to take your questions and answers. I'm sure you have some that are triggered. Put them in that chat box and we'll answer them in a few minutes. But let's just talk a little bit about control of your company and why that's so important.
especially for women-owned small businesses. We have to, let me just share this with you. We had the opportunity to train. I'm going to bring up an issue and a
Mm-hmm.
concern that a lot of women have as small businesses. Um, when you are a woman-owned small business and you're in the 8A program,
Yes.
we were providing training nationally for the 8A Business Development Program.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that a lot of, women are considered minorities regardless of their ethnic groups.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so the 8A program generated interest from a lot of large corporations and a lot of gentlemen that wanted to be in control of the program
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
who were not non-minorities, if you
Yes.
will.
Yes.
And so that's one of the critical things when you are in a woman's program or in a EDWOSB program or a woman-owned small business
Yes.
program,
Yes.
you must be at least 51% owner of
Yes.
your business.
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Exactly.
critical.
And even joining the chamber, we invite those who are 51%, whether you're in a for-profit or not-for-profit, that
Yes,
you are 51% the owner or the majority, because you are controlling that company. And we want you
absolutely,
to start out strong, because that's where wealth is built, when you have control.
absolutely, absolutely,
Because those who control you make the decisions for you. Then
absolutely.
at a certain point, you'll be like, that's not the business I started. Well, it's not, because it's no longer yours. So we want you to have it. So Angela, if you can put the flyer up for this amazing woman, Brenda Campbell, that for the training that's going to happen, if it can come up now, this is going to happen on October 8th, 15th, and 22nd. It's a webinar conference 2020, discussions and insights. And we want you to go on and join us from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And the information is there, but if you put your email in the chat box, we'll make sure also, if you're not a member yet, that you'll get this. But this price is for GBWCC members. And this is our final week of pre-launch discounts. Next week, they soar. The prices soar and surge and go up. But we want you to be a part of something that's from the beginning that will grow together. So thank you for this. We appreciate it. And we're going to invite Angela, our producer, Angela Sims, League of Girlfriends, CEO. And what's the other piece? Atlanta, what's the other piece?
Atlanta Women's Network.
Atlanta Women's Network. You're looking at a mighty woman there. She's going to tell us if we have some questions, and please start with those.
Yes, we do. This is incredible. Thank you, ladies. We actually have Kim Henry, who has a question of how can she get support for her small business? She mentioned her business is called STEAM Revolution, which puts the art back into STEM for children.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. You start by joining Global Black Women, but and you'll get a lot of steam. All right, Brenda, if you might answer that.
It would be interesting to know the age group of her children, okay? But let her know that if there are smaller children, okay, she could get help through grants.gov, and she could go to Health and Human Services, and they would be able to provide her with some support. There's all kinds of programs, of course, with Health and Human Services, but it's the Administration for Children and Families, I believe, okay?
Awesome.
But if she goes there and look there, she'll be able to get support that way. Now, the other way, if she has, for instance, juveniles, if it's a juvenile program or something like that, she's working with other youth and that kind of thing, then she could get support through the Office of Juvenile Justice Program and Prevention.
Oh, that's awesome. And just a word, and I learned this from Brenda Campbell, but if you're going to go for government contracts, make sure you're certified and registered.
Absolutely.
With the government. And she's going to be teaching more of that intricately in these 3 workshops that are coming up for the webinar 2020. But it's really important, and it takes a little while, so you can't just jump out there and say, I want money. They're going to ask you, what have you done to prepare for this money? And keep your books, because they want to know how, if you can take care of a little bit, there's that scripture, if you can take care of a little, then we can give you some more. So make sure your books are in order and know how to read a spreadsheet. What's another question we have, Angela?
Okay, we have Stephanie Smith said that Ms. Campbell, she heard you talking about plan. She wanted to know if you actually had a plan that did not work out and how you bounced back, because she mentioned that's happened to her a few times.
Oh, good question. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, plans are designed for you to be successful. Okay. However, if there is an issue, and when we had an issue, okay, let me think of an issue that we had. Let me just think about that. When we had a plan, our plans were normally strategically written. And it's very important when you do a plan that you keep your plans updated. Okay. It's very important that you update your plans. Now, however, when you are running into difficulty, what you do is you revisit the plan goal that you set, and then you change it so that and you look at what's worked in your company and you continue to incorporate those strategies that are working.
Yes, yes, that's awesome. Revisit, you know, my R's. Revisit. But sometimes you have to look at it differently through new eyes. What worked in June of 2019 certainly didn't work in June of 2020.
Absolutely.
And probably won't work in October of 2020. So yeah, talk about that, sure.
And which brings me to your company constantly has to change with the dynamics of the organizations that you're going to be working with the dynamics of the economy that you're in right now.
Yes.
Your company has to constantly change. It cannot operate the way it was back in, like my company can't operate the way it was back in 1991.
Right.
That plan was workable for that time. But as the company continued to grow, we had to constantly update our plan. So your business plans never stop changing. They continue to change. That is just your initial plan. So funding is looked at with the banks. They oftentimes want to see your business plan. And when they see your business plan, going back to a word we talked about earlier, they see that your company is diversified in how it gets its opportunities, then it will tend to work better with those types of organizations, and they'll probably get funded too.
Exactly. And some places want bank statements, just like for certain apartment buildings you're going to go into. If it's more elegant, they want to know if you can pay $5,000 a month rent. They're going to look at your last 6 months, and if you had only $2 in the bank, they're going to like, oh no, she's not in this stack. So all of that. But even with my speaking business this year, that was very successful. But we primarily did keynote speaking, but they were in person. So of course, when COVID hit, I think March 12th, I'll never forget the date, literally every text, every phone call was, we're sorry, we have to cancel. Well, you can sit there and say, okay, I'm out of money and my business will die. Or you can say, let me learn how to do virtual speaking. And you have to shift. So what I charge for in-person speaking, you have to shift a little. You have to kind of cut it in half until people know that you're a virtual speaker. So you have to make adjustments. So it's better to have some money than to have none at all. And so it's to your point, yes, sometimes you have to even revisit within that year what you were doing.
Now, I will tell you this. When we started our company, we were one of the things we were doing, of course, as we were moving into various spaces for our company, okay? The locations for where our organizations were housed, if you will.
Yes.
We were initially paying a smaller amount. Okay. Then we grew. Okay. Then after that, we noticed that a couple of our contracts were ending.
Okay.
So when our contracts ended, we were spending, let's say, $7,000. Okay. That was one of our training facilities.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
We had to come back and go and negotiate. We had to negotiate with our renter, okay, the individual who was renting to us.
Yes.
And so that we were able to get our pricing structure down. And so what we've done now, even more so, we have learned that because we had an office in California, we had another office that we were spending large amounts of money for.
Right.
So what we ended up doing, my dear, is that we ended up going into relationships, what we call virtual offices, okay?
Yes.
And Regis, okay?
Yes.
Regises are all over the world.
And workspace and all.
And workspace is available. The secretaries will answer your phones. And so what I found is a lot of our team members now are working from home.
Yes.
Or they are working through Regis.
Yes.
Or because I said, if I'm going to spend $7,000 a month, I just will have that as I spend it on my own situation, you know?
Totally.
And totally, you know,
so time for renegotiating. I mean,
absolutely.
This is a pivotal time. When they talk about this is a pivotal time for renegotiating contracts, because people would rather have you in there a little bit than to lose you altogether.
Absolutely.
The same apartment I was talking about that I moved from on the DC waterfront, I looked at it, I'm like, it's $2,000 less, right? Because they want to fill that building and they'd rather not have all these empty apartments. So they want to fill that building so they have the prices down. I was like, you could have told me that before I left, but that's okay. This is all part of pivoting. And we have time for one more question.
Oh, okay. This question actually comes from someone watching our Zoom. It's Jackie that just joined Global Black Women. Yay, Jackie. Okay, Jackie says that as a small business, her company, Crystal Ikai, was selected to pitch an organic joint massage cream for Walmart's 2020, but she needs resources to fund the endeavor if her product is selected. She's reaching out to women and wants to know where she can find those type of resources.
Well, as a new member, we'll be glad to share with you. Brenda's going to give you some tips, and welcome aboard. I did some research on your company, and congratulations on such a wonderful brand. Yes.
Well, let me share this with you. If you were doing something organic, I think that you might want to, I want to make sure, can you repeat that question one more time, Angela?
Yes, no problem. So she said that she's looking for resources because she was recently selected to pitch for organic joint massage cream for Walmart for 2020, but she needs resources to help her if her product is to get selected.
Okay. All righty, let me think through that. One of the things that's going to be important is that she has her products trademarked, okay? Make sure they're trademark and patent, okay? Then the other thing that's important is that she looks for research dollars. Tell her to try the Foundation Center. The Foundation Center. And tell her to look in the Foundation Center to and put the word organic in there to see if there's any research dollars for developing your own products. Now, I know that the federal government has funding for SBIR and STTR grant funding, but I don't believe they have any funding for that type of opportunity. But she can definitely put her work, tell her to definitely make sure that she goes on the website and just put the word organic support or research dollars or grant funding. And oftentimes people can find things if they just search the internet.
Exactly. They have the advantage of that. I said we used to have to go to encyclopedias and pray that we found something close. But the other thing I want to share with you, and we again welcome you, is that they give you a certain time period. Once they select you, they give you, even if it's 2 days or 4 days, and then you jump and you call the Global Black Women, or we'll get you in touch with Brenda. Once you know you're selected, you do your research and you work like heck those next 2-4 days before your product goes officially into Walmart, and you find out what you need and you get it quickly. So you have sisters now. You've joined a sisterhood.
Yes.
We're to connect you, we're to collaborate, and to help you find what you need. So that's one of the benefits of being a member. And I just want to share that with you. So we welcome you and we wish you well. We hope that you get it. Is there one more pending question that we have time?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes. So Val Harris just wants to suggest that we host more Zooms like this, talking about budgeting and saving while setting up your business. So it's less of a question, more of a, can we please have more of what you guys are already giving us?
We plan to have, that's my little sister Val. We certainly plan to do that. We gave you these 7 weeks actually as kind of a pre-launch gift to you because we wanted to find out what you were interested in. You know, I know a lot of friends in a lot of areas, a lot of partners, but we also wanted to gift you with this time. Once you're part of the chamber, and we're going to be doing quarterly webinars, and we're going to also be doing some masterminds because different people have different needs. And we wanted to get a sense of what really is important to you. So we thank you for sharing that. But I think the budgeting is a real critical piece. Val, if you don't mind my sharing, is one of the Mary Kay distributors, and she's doing extremely well. And we're also hoping that she also becomes a distributor of EBW. But budgeting is going to be a big part. And
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you're in the
Absolutely.
training, we'll make sure that you have that. So we want to thank you all. Thank you, Angela, for being our producer. We're going to put that flyer up one more time if we can. Again, the dates of October 8th, 15th, and 22nd. If you are a Global Black Women Chamber member, you can get all 3 classes for $150, but you have the wisdom and the insight of Brenda Campbell. We're in partnership with the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce. And we want you to grow. We want wealth creation. We want to make sure that you know we want you to prosper, that you have commerce and you have currency and several streams of income so that you'll be a bad mama jamma. We are excited about you. Take that link and register with us. But if you have not joined the Global Black Women's Chamber, please go on today, globalblackwomencc.org. We would welcome you. Our new members reception is next Tuesday, and you'll be a founding member if you join us anytime up through Monday. But we are excited and delighted to be here. So this is just the beginning, and you ain't seen nothing yet. In Spanish, they say, no hay vida toda nada vista. Okay, you haven't seen anything yet. We are so delighted to have you. Again, I'm Ambassador Sujay, the CEO and chair of the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce. We've been talking with Brenda Campbell, CEO of USSMC and the Enhancement Foundation. This could go on for 4 days, not even just, not just 40 minutes, but you have been a wonderful partner. We thank you, and we're going to be seeing you again very soon. So thank you for joining us. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and share this wonderful, wonderful thing. Live from Sujay. Next week, we'll be back to see you Wednesday, a wonderful Wednesday for women.